Fitzpatrick takes the snap, drops back, lobs it back right corner. Decker! He's got it! Touchdown! Eric Decker scores! And the Jets have won it in overtime!
This is the Jet Take with Ben Blessington and Kyle Fahey.
Welcome back to another episode of the Jet Take. I'm your host, Ben Blessington. With me now, as always, Mr. Money, Kyle Fahey. Kyle, how you doing, man? It's the holiday season. How you feeling? Heading into Week 17 against the Patriots.
Ben, I think I got your whole opening monologue down pat. I was just sitting here mouthing it. I actually switched it up. I always say welcome back, and then I was going to say joining me now as always, but as I was starting to say it, I was like, he's not a guest, he's just the host. Yeah.
So,
I
switched it up. You're just a guy. Honestly, the Mr. Money thing is just a reference. You are a Jag. It's just a reference to the soundbite we used to play when we started the show.
Money.
Yeah. We haven't done that in a while. Maybe we should bring that back. I think that's a 2019 thing.
Ooh.
Well, thank you for listening to another episode of the Jet Take. We're back on a Thursday night instead of a Wednesday night. That's our fault again for being the most consistent.
That's my fault. I will take the blame this time.
Kyle can take the blame for this one, but it's been mostly me this first semester of college. So our inconsistency has mostly been on one side. But regardless, we're at least getting an episode out this week, which is better than we can say for some of the weeks this season. But we're glad you're listening. You can always follow us at the Jet Take on Twitter because that is probably the most consistent part of the show. I'm always tweeting there, firing back with fans, live tweeting games, tweeting my thoughts and funny, Jets-related stuff. So you can follow us there. You can listen to our podcast just anywhere you listen to podcasts. Search up the Jet Take. And you can also find us on turnofthejets.com. We're under there. Plenty of other Jets podcasts and articles and
we're the only good one
there. We're not the only good one, but we are probably the most inconsistent one. So there's that. I think I've said inconsistent now about 7 times. Talking about inconsistency. Whoa. Ready? Well, we are consistent in that case. But ready for the segue? Talking about inconsistency, let's talk about Todd Bowles and these New York Jets.
I knew it.
Boom!
What a segue, Ben. This is why you get the half cent that we get per download.
A-plus podcasting right there. The Jets and the Packers, another perfect game for the tank. I'm not going to lie. I was cheering against the Jets kind of the whole – I was cheering for Sam every time he was on the field. But then when we were on defense, I was like, you know what, Aaron, show us why you're the GOAT. But I'm not going to lie. When we got towards the end there, I kind of wanted him to hit Burnett in the back of the end zone. I got kind of frustrated. And when we lost, I kind of felt like it stung a little bit. And I was like, wait a second. Why do we care? We just dropped a place in the draft. We're doing well. And my other argument was like, if we're going to win one of these final games, I want it to be this week against the Patriots.
Yeah, against the Pats.
Tom Brady. Yeah. It's Darnold versus Brady, episode 1 in New England. I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of cheering for the Jets this week. I won't be upset if they lose because that's objectively the more positive thing long term. But if the Jets win this game and pick 4th, I'll take that. I'm not going to be that upset about it. I'd rather see Darnold beat Brady, the man who's made me cry my entire childhood. But before we get on to the Jets-Pats game, Kyle, let's talk about the Jets-Packers game a little bit. Darnold, again, another fantastic performance. Really, since that third quarter interception against Buffalo, he's been lights out. A 68% completion percentage, 341 yards, a career high, 3 touchdowns. Most important part, no interceptions or turnovers, and 128 quarterback rating. That turnover part, no interceptions since that pick against Buffalo. And then the other thing that people have been talking about, and of course we're going to jinx him, is one of his biggest concerns coming out of college were the fumbles. And he's had really 0 fumbles this entire year. He had 1 when he was handing off to Crowell, but it kind of seemed more like Isaiah Crowell's fault. So, no strip sacks or anything of that nature, which is really a positive thing to see, that he can take a pretty major issue that I was expecting him to have, 5 or 6, 7 fumbles and just correct it that fast. So I was really impressed with that. But talking about this Jets-Packers game, Kyle, we'll start with Sam Darnold. Your thoughts on his performance and the growth that we've really seen from him in the past few weeks?
Yeah, I think Sam and I guess the offense in general have been fairly productive. And I don't think it's a shock that it's all been at the hands of the young players that we have on the team. Besides Sam, Elijah McGuire, Robbie Anderson, Chris Herndon have been leading this offense, and the offensive line has been doing a better job as of late. Spencer Long starting to get a little more, comfortable, I guess, with the left guard position. or guard position. Yeah, he's filling in for James Carpenter, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And then, just the whole line in general has been much better, and I think that's led to Darnold getting more time, being more comfortable, and Bates being able to be less predictable and more open with the offense and get good players involved. Quincy didn't play last week, correct? He still got one.
And he has an ankle thing. He most likely won't play. I think it's ankle. He
like
most likely won't play. Next week, which is disappointing. We can talk about a noon one a little bit, but continue on the Sam thing before we move on to a noon one, some other topics.
Yeah, so the young players on offense leading the charge, and I think, like you were saying earlier off the air and on the show, perfect game for the tank. I mean, basically exactly what you're looking for, a shootout between the greatest quarterback of all time and someone who has been deemed as the future of a franchise and the NFL in general for the most part. Producing with players that Jets fans and I guess some NFL media to a point, like guys like Robbie Anderson and Chris Herndon, the media has deemed them in a way as the building pieces for the Jets. So the right guys are clicking at the right time. They're being productive, and they're getting let down by players with poor attitudes on defense, and I'm going to call out primarily Tremaine Johnson, who, another player that seems under Todd Bowles gets a big money contract and then decides to show up to meetings late, doesn't produce on the field. And I don't think it's a coincidence that Tremaine Johnson, Muhammad Wilkerson, Sheldon Richardson, and even to an extent Damon Harrison all kind of fell into that same, same bracket there of guys who are looking to get money or got paid and then kind of slacked off under Todd Bowles. I think you mimic...
Damon Harrison, you can't lump into that group. He got paid elsewhere and has played pretty well for the Giants and the Lions. He didn't really get paid.
I guess, but I feel like...
Well, I'm saying you can't stick it to Todd Bowles. Damon Harrison. Damon Harrison played fantastic under Bowles every year he was here, or the 1 year that he was here with Bowles.
I feel like... I don't know. But we could definitely group Leonard Williams into there because I feel like he is kind of playing...
He hasn't even gotten paid, though. I understand what you're saying.
Yet.
I think
he's just playing kind of lazy.
Oh, I see. I mean, yeah. I don't think you can make that point about Damon Harrison. He's a little one-dimensional, and he's a run-stuffing nose tackle. He can do a few other things. So I understand maybe, on passing downs he looks a little slow. But Damon Harrison never took a playoff. As far as Tremaine Johnson, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it was, getting paid. Him and Muhammad Wilkerson losing that edge, that drive, getting paid, finally making it, earning the big bucks. Maybe he's slacked off a little bit in training camp or whatnot. Leonard Williams, I don't know. I don't know if it's as much about effort. I mean, it could be. There was that touchdown against Tennessee that people, got on him about, not giving his full effort. But, I think with him, it's almost just, I think Jets fans overrated him. And not just Jets fans, people in the NFL draft, talked about this guy as the next Richard Seymour, the next Reggie White. This guy was going to come in and be a stud defensive lineman, Pro Bowl, All-Pro, Aaron Donald. And he hasn't really been that. He was an alternate Pro Bowl the first year. But I will say this, he's a good defensive lineman, and we saw the difference when he left the team. So don't get me wrong, he's not like a bad player, and I wouldn't even call him a bust. He was maybe overdrafted. Yeah, he was maybe overdrafted.
I don't
know
at
the time.
Anybody, an exception to Todd Gurley, who's better than him from that first round off the top of my head. Beasley. He's not.
Hold on. I'm pulling up that draft class. But the point
who
remains,
are realistically viewed as top 10 players. I mean, I'm sure there's a guy.
Yeah, okay, but Kyle, you can make that argument. Okay, but Kyle, you can make that argument about Geno Smith. He should have been drafted in the first round of the 2013
no, he shouldn't draft. He was not a first-round pick.
Have you looked at that draft class? My point is that weak draft classes don't mean that a player is necessarily better than he actually is. I'm not saying that, and I'm saying this. I'm saying that Leonard Williams is a very good defensive lineman. He could be a defensive lineman on a playoff or Super Bowl winning team, but he's not a franchise cornerstone. He's a good to very good. Maybe he'll have another Pro Bowl season or two, but he's not going to be. He's not your Aaron Donald. He's not your corner piece. He's more of a role player than we really thought he was going to be. So when I say overdrafted. At the time, he was underdrafted. At the time, people thought he was going to go 3 or 4, and then he fell to the Jets. But in retrospect, was he worth a top 6 pick? No, he was worth a first rounder, and he's a good player. But looking back, no, I mean, Kyle, I'm not saying that the Jets made the wrong decision in taking him. I'm saying based off value, did they get a top 6 player with Leonard Williams? No, they didn't.
From that draft, I believe so.
You think he's one of the top 6 players in the NFL draft? In the 2015 NFL, do you want me to go through all? You think I can't find 6 better
Marcus
players?
Mariota, Okay, let's avoid the people who are already taken. So the people behind Leonard Williams, Kevin White, way better.
Okay.
Vic Beasley, significantly better. Eric Flowers, trash.
Okay, hold on.
Gurley's great.
Here we go. No, I'll give it to you. I'll give you the players that are already better than him. Todd Gurley's better than him. Melvin Gordon's better than him. Marcus Peters better than him. Nelson Aguilar, maybe.
Oh, no. Oh, come on now. Come on. You're reaching here. Nelson
Aguilar is kind of a key contributor.
Aguilar is a number 2 receiver.
Fine. Move on.
Nick Foles
move on. Landon
Marcus.
Collins, Bernardrick McKinney, Tyler Lockett. I mean, I'm saying David Johnson. You're saying I can't find better players in the draft.
Okay, you're naming guys who were considered 4th and 5th round.
That's my point. Leonard Williams was considered to go top 3, top 4.
A top 10 pick, and he is better than most of these people in the first round.
Kyle, it doesn't matter. You're looking at it out of context, essentially, in the sense that you are actually. I'll reverse that. You're looking at it too much in context. I'm saying, did the Jets draft a guy top 6 overall that should be considered a top 6 player in that draft class? No, they did. I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying.
Top 15 player in that entire draft class, and that is very good.
Potentially, maybe. I mean, if you're going to go into the 3rd and 4th round into the deeper draft classes or the deeper rounds, then no, he's not. That's my point about Leonard Williams. I'm not trashing on him. I don't even know how we got to Leonard Williams, honestly. I don't know what I was talking about.
Also, honestly, Ben, I would like to say I rather have Leonard Williams on my team than
So you're
Marcus
saying
Peters.
So your
Marcus
point
Peters is kind of a dirtbag.
I would take Marcus Peters.
He's a jerk. He is a jerk. He's going to get himself suspended. He has temper issues. He's like if Robbie Anderson was good enough to have those problems. Like, that's what Marcus Peters is.
Okay, Kyle. I understand what you're saying. I understand that Leonard Williams, if you look at it in context in the sense that, so who was valued around that? Who was valued? Okay, hold on.
And he is a top 6 pick in my mind.
Okay, don't keep talking over. I'm trying to explain. I'm extending an olive branch to you. I'm extending an. You're like Skip Bayless right now. Look,
Skip.
If you're looking at
come on, Skip.
Skip. Top 10 players.
God, you are so white.
You just gonna keep talking over the point, or?
I am.
Is it because your girlfriend's in the room that you gotta flex like this? It is that, yeah. This reminds me of when my dad would come and watch my basketball games, and I would just be absolutely horrible. But when he wasn't there, I'd actually be kind of good. And then when he'd come and watch the games, I'd just absolutely tank it. This is what that's reminding me of. Is Kyle, just settle down there. Look, I'm just saying. I understand what you're saying in the sense of context of who was highly rated there. He was is McCagnon's first draft. He's the best player on the board. I understand why he took him, and I think he's a good pick. My only point that I'm not even talking about the draft. I'm just saying that Jets fans and NFL draft analysts overrated Leonard Williams. That is really what when you whittle it down. That's my point. Is that Leonard Williams was overrated coming out of the draft. Can you agree with that?
I think to what he has produced so far, yes. What he is capable of, no. I really do think, and this comes in general, Ben. This comes in general for the whole roster and NFL teams in general. A zombie mentality coach who does not bring any energy on the sideline, does not bring any energy anywhere for the most part, except he's in Luke Cage or something. And even then, he is monotone as can be.
Well, and I'll add this.
Changes an NFL locker room and players' perspective.
Yeah, and I'll add this. Leonard Williams is only 24, so this is what I'm saying is not set in stone.
He still has plenty of time.
To this point, under Todd Bowles, he has underperformed to his draft status. That doesn't mean he's a bad player. I mean, look, Vernon Golston was drafted in that same spot, a decade earlier, and he was absolutely terrible. Leonard Williams is a good to very good defensive lineman. He's just not the all-pro, Pro Bowler that we thought he was. To this point, who knows? If the Jets get the right coach, they add another edge rusher, they get some more guys in that line, maybe we'll start to see more Leonard Williams. But what is it, 6 sacks in 2 years? He had 2 sacks last year and 4 sacks this year. Isn't really acceptable. I mean, and for a all-pro Pro Bowler, for a solid run-stopping defensive lineman who's going to get some pressure on the quarterback, has struggled finishing, fine. He's good. But he's not the Richard Seymour that a lot of people hyped him up to be. That was really my only point. I don't even know how we got on to this point, because I remember we were talking about the Jets-Packers game, and then we kind of drove off the road there with the Leonard Williams debate. But that was really my only point on Leonard. I guess moving on, I mean, Bowles and Bates on Sunday delivered. I guess I should put this more in Bowles. Bowles delivered his final, or I guess it's not his final. He has one more week to prove it again. Almost like a farewell tour of just terrible coaching decisions and blowing a game. Now, you could put some of it on execution. I understand the Jets players made plenty of mistakes, but the fact that the Jets blew a 15-point lead in the fourth quarter, there's blame to go around, but a lot of it should lie on the shoulders of the head coach. Mm-hmm. Look, Todd is a great, or I don't know him that well, but he's from all reports is a nice guy, and he'll be a very good defensive coordinator. And who knows, maybe years down the line he could be a head coach again and have success. But right now he's not a good fit with the New York
I've been reading that there are real chances that he is going to be a head coach somewhere else.
I could see Arizona hiring him, or if the Redskins parted from Gruden. Yeah, I could see him getting a job this year. I think he'll be a head coach again in this league. I don't think he's over as a head coach. But under the Jets, he proved his first year that he can win with a lot of talent. He struggled these past few years. It's just good for both parties to move on. Todd needs to go back to his roots, work on the defense. Because I'll say this: the defense was not the reason the Jets have lost, or not the reason the Jets have. The offense is not the reason the Jets have lost these past few games. It's Todd Bowles' defense that has lost these past few games. So yeah, I think they should move on. And speaking of guys they could potentially move on to, Kyle, Jim Harbaugh was floated out as a potential guy that the Jets have had interest in.
That time of year again.
Ago, they've been in talks with him, or at least been doing research on him. Harbaugh said earlier this month that he's not leaving Michigan, and then the reports all leaked, and the Jets oddly released a statement saying, there's no truth to our interest in Jim Harbaugh, which, when there's smoke, there's fire, as Josina Anderson said. I think the interest is real. I think that's undoubtedly the Jets' statement's just a flat-out lie. Whether Harbaugh's interested in leaving Michigan or not remains to be unseen. I don't think he is. I don't think he'll leave. But again, if the move is right and he gets paid a lot of money talks. Gets to be in New York. If he wins here, he'll go down as one of the best coaches of all time as far as the New York metro area is concerned. A declining Patriots team, an up-and-coming quarterback, Sam Darnold, $100 million, top pick. It is an attractive job. But Kyle, what are your thoughts on the Jets going after Jim Harbaugh? First of all, do you like it? Do you like that that's kind of where the Jets' head is at? There was that report they're going big game hunting. Do you kind of like the Jim Harbaugh hire? And then second of all, what do you think the possibilities of this are happening? Do you think it's going to happen and whatnot?
I guess I'll start by saying I'm not a huge fan of the, slate of potential head coaches that we have. To replace Bowles, there are a bunch of guys right now who have been fired for a reason who, sure, they can come in as veteran head coaches and know how to run an NFL locker room and have had success before, but I just don't want them. Like Mike McCarthy fits that exactly. I don't want Mike McCarthy. He had 1 year of nice success and a couple decent playoff runs with the greatest quarterback of all time. So, I'm just looking for somebody else fresh. I'm not a current loser. Harbaugh is somebody who is definitely kind of fits that bill, but at the same time, I think he did a phenomenal job with the 49ers on their Super Bowl run. They had an abundance of talent. I can't sit here and tell you exactly who he was in charge of taking, but I do know that team was loaded from top to bottom at every position. He had 2 Pro Bowl level quarterbacks. The offensive line, I believe he's considered some sort of offensive line drafting guru. I think that's one of his specialties. I was reading a little report on him when he started coming out. Mikey Potty, Joe Staley. He had some solid offensive linemen, and then obviously Smith and Kaepernick, Frank Gore, Delaney Walker, Vernon Davis. Vernon Davis was there before, but and then on defense, Navarro Bowman, Aldon Smith, a guy who he somehow kept in check for a while. Who else am I missing there? Ahmad Brooks. It's a loaded team from top to bottom, and he did a great job at controlling all those guys and making them good for a consecutive number of years. Obviously, went on to Michigan, and this is where I think it becomes unrealistic, because if you look at the shape of the Big Ten right now, who is the best team? Urban Meyer's gone. Say what you want about Ohio State as a talent, I don't think Urban Meyer, what's the guy who they hired? Ryan, it was the offensive coordinator, Ryan Day, I think his name is, something like that. He's not going to be the same great coach that Urban Meyer is. Urban Meyer has won in multiple places now. He's always been successful. He is a great football coach and a horrible man, hence why he was, quote-unquote, stepping down and passing the sticks or whatever that video wants to call it, Ohio State is not going to be the power of the Big Ten next year, and I believe that because Shea Patterson's coming back, and I think Jim Harbaugh is coming back. So I think Harbaugh will eventually come back to the NFL. I think he wants to find success in college first, like he did in the NFL. So as much as I would like Jim Harbaugh, a person who I know can develop talent, can bring talent in, is obviously a good recruiter, and that can be translated to free agency as we've seen before, I just don't see it happening. Harbaugh probably would be my number 2 option before his brother, John. John would be my number 1 option because John, in my mind, has had consistent success in the NFL despite all the things going against him.
Would you trade picks for John?
I would, depending on
what would you
what
trade?
the Ravens are. Well, I can't sit here and tell you I know exactly what the trade market is for coaches. It hasn't been done since Gruden, as far as I'm concerned, and that was back in '99 or something. So I don't know what the market is really. But I don't know.
I think it was 2000 something. No, I see what you're saying on Jim.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think the Ravens would take that. But as far as Jim Harbaugh goes, look, I like that the Jets are not really just going with a layup of a hire. They're looking for it. They're going big game hunting. They're turning over. They're going to leave no stones unturned. And I like that. I like that they're interested in Harbaugh. I think Harbaugh is the type of coach that could be good for the Jets. I like that he has NFL experience. I like that he's a great talent evaluator, is going to have a good understanding of the draft process, obviously, so he'll have a big say in the personnel decisions. So I expect him to be a good drafter. Look, he had success in San Francisco. He's a quarterback guru. He's a offensive mind. He took a team to a Super Bowl. I like all of that. I have 2 kind of concerns. One, there were some concerns, I guess, when he was leaving the 49ers. He had the whole disagreements with the management and whatever. So probably he would, I guess Mac would just be a glorified scout in this case. But as far as his players goes, there's a worry that his shtick works best in college when players are staying a maximum of 4 years. There's a worry that that was all the reports that we were hearing when he was leaving the 49ers, is he's going back to college because his whole persona and the way he coaches, the way he's a hard ass, and the way he coaches just works better in college, and that once you get past a certain time, then it starts to stink a little bit, and players just don't gravitate towards it as much. And that was just San Francisco. That could be, he's already had a run as an NFL coach. We can see what he does differently. He's obviously a successful coach, so I'm not too worried about that. And then also there's the concern of, can he win big games? He didn't really beat Michigan or beat Ohio State. He couldn't do it as of now. So there's a worry about, so he goes to the NFL. Is he going to be a guy that can get the Jets to 10-6 and then, losing the wild card? That remains to be seen. When you brought up McCarthy a little earlier, I disagree with you on McCarthy. I, at first, was not attracted to it at all. And I was like, this is just such a snooze of a hire. The Jets are just going to be lazy with this. Hire him. He'll be another retread head coach that gets fired in 3 or 4 years. I think McCarthy could be different. Now, look, is he my top choice at the moment? No, but I'm not necessarily against him. And if the Jets hire him, I'm not going to be upset. Look, first of all, he got a late, career resurgence out of Brett Favre, and I guess he did do well with the Jets and Vikings, so you can't give him, too much credit for that. He handled the transition to Aaron Rodgers well, and you have to give him some credit for developing Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers didn't come out of the womb this good. He needed some development, so you have to give McCarthy some credit for the way he handled Aaron Rodgers. He is an offensive mind. He has a great record. He's been to and won big games. He's won a Super Bowl. So I am attracted to Mike McCarthy a little bit. Is his offense gotten a little stale over the years? Sure.
Whoa. A little suspect there, Ben.
What did I say?
Think about what you just said.
I don't remember what I was saying. I'm in podcast mode. It's probably
You're a little
immature joke.
Attracted to Mike McCarthy?
What did I just say? I literally said it's going to be some stupid immature joke. Yes, Kyle, I'm sexually attracted to 56-year-old Mike McCarthy. You got me. No, as a coaching
his age
candidate,
doesn't matter. It's a matter that he's fat and ugly.
and a guy.
Whoa,
For me, there's nothing wrong with it, but you're
Ben.
insinuating that I have no issue.
2018, my friend. Come on, Ben.
Look at that. He's just such a troll. I have no issue.
We have to put the explicit warning on here.
No, I have nothing. Okay, I'm sorry. My apologies.
We're gonna get called homophobic now instead of racist.
No, that wasn't. Okay, that wasn't me. Moving forward. No, as far as Mike McCarthy, I could see him having success with a young Sam Darnold. I could see him having success in New York. I think there is something to hiring an experienced head coach. So yeah, I think that Mike McCarthy could be a success here in New York. I mean, and people were upset that the Jets didn't hire Doug Marrone last year. Obviously, it kind of imploded this year with a bad Blake Bortles. But the whole point back then was, we didn't want to hire a retread head coach. Mike McCarthy is a retread head coach, but he is a retread head coach that has won a Super Bowl and has went to the playoffs. And really, these past 2 years, one of which Aaron Rodgers is hurt, and then this year he's fired middle of the way through. The only 2 really losing seasons he's had in a long time. So, if the Jets hire Mike McCarthy, I won't be upset. I can understand the move. It's safe, and I will say that I do think the Jets will be a good team under him. The question is are they going to be the record-breaking Super Bowl winning team? That remains to be seen. But under Mike McCarthy, 9-7, 10-6, I don't see why it can't be done. The Jets only lost 1 game this year that they weren't really in, and that was the Buffalo game where Josh McCown played. So, other than that, if you clean up coaching, if Sam Darnold wasn't a rookie in the Bears game, the Vikings game, or whatever, and Bates opened up the playbook more, we might have won more games. So I don't think this team is as far away. So McCarthy, I'm perfectly okay with. Now Kyle, that was a little rough stretch there. I'm looking forward to the response we get. People know that there's context to everything, and with Kyle and I have nothing but love towards all walks of life and people and.
Then
this is like a politician. Well, I shouldn't have to, but look what you did. You put me in a corner. I was speaking on my preferences. That's all that was about. Okay, talking about a big topic on Jets Twitter. Mike Maccagnan. There seems to be a pretty stark line between people right now who are saying that the Jets should keep Mike Maccagnan, that he's done a fantastic job, that he's amazing, and then there are those who say he's the worst GM ever and that he should be fired. Obviously, I think both of those are false. I think they're somewhere in the middle. Personally, and I'll get your take on this, I can see really both options. I don't think Mike Maccagnan has given a reason to be fired. I don't think he deserves to be fired, but I don't think he really deserves to stay, if that makes sense. Look, he's had some... he's the first guy in 50 years so far deliver the Jets a franchise quarterback. He drafted a Pro Bowl safety. He's been pretty good at trades. Really, the only one he's lost is the Rashard Robinson one, because even the Jermaine Kearse one, we got a second-round pick for it, and Kearse was good last year, so he's been good there. He's had some solid free agent signings. He's compensated for some bad draft picks with some undrafted free agents like Robbie and signing guys like Brandon Copeland and whatnot. He's had some few guys like Elijah McGuire and even Chris Herndon this year and Brandon Shell, that, some mid to late-round draft picks that have been good. Other than that, though, he's had overall pretty bad drafting. I mean, I guess 2015 was horrendous, because all the picks are gone and Leonard Williams is the only one left. And as we talked about earlier, not performing to the level that he thought he was going to get as a franchise cornerstone, but he is still a good defensive end. And outside of that, you have Darren Lee, who was looking like a bust for a while, turned it on this year, then got suspended at the end of the year. We don't really know how that's going to play out, but I think he is going to be a solid contributor going forward. The horrible Christian Hackenberg pick. Jordan Jenkins was a good pick, then a bad Justin Burris pick. So very inconsistent drafting. And look, all GMs have their hits and misses, but right now it seems like Maccagnan has more misses than hits, and even his hits, the majority of them aren't like they're groundbreaking, earth-shattering, amazing hits. I mean, people are celebrating Elijah McGuire like he's some amazing... I mean, look, running back is a very replaceable position, as we can see by the Giants' 5-11 record or whatever they are right now. But look, Elijah McGuire is a nice player.
Saquon Barkley is better than Sam Darnold.
Sure, right now he's a better player, but I don't think we're going to be saying that next year. And as far as value goes, I think we could disagree. But that's a different debate. So I think there's
Sam
right
Darnold
now
never amount to anything.
Sure, Barry Sanders is better than who's a really great quarterback. Phil Simms, I guess. That was a bad example. Sorry. Barry Sanders is better than...
You picked literally, possibly the greatest player in NFL history.
Okay, fine. Well, I was just saying, yeah, a great running back.
I'm joking, right? Like, Sam Darnold has been better than Saquon Barkley this year.
Yeah, well, the last few games, certainly, and then we'll see his value over the years. But anyways, my point is that, yeah, Mac has had hits and misses. He's had some great hits like Darnold and Jamal Adams and even Herndon. Some of his hits that are being celebrated aren't as good as I think Jets fans are making him out to be, and he's had a lot of misses. He's gotten better, I think, with each year. So that's my point. I'm kind of on the fence about it. That's kind of a weak stance to take. I think I'm siding more with keeping him, but if a guy like Harbaugh, comes along and wants to take over personnel control, I'm fine handing it over to him. So that's and I think that's how the Jets view. Manish Mehta came on our show a month and a half, 2 months ago, and he said Mac is going to stay. Woody's in London. He's comfortable with McCagnon. He's comfortable with the job he's done, and he thinks he deserves another chance with a coach that he chooses, and that's a fair point. Bowles was really tied to McCagnon at the hip. Mac might have given the okay, but I mean he was just hired, and then and the guy who got him, hired, Charlie Casserly, he's going to turn down his, suggestion for the head coach. I mean it was an arranged marriage. And so I think there is some
those work out great
gravity.
in some cultures.
We might have to issue an apology for that remark too, maybe. But like,
they can at me on Twitter.
And then the last point about it, I guess I would add would be, oh, there we go. Sorry. Yeah, I mean that Les Snead under the Rams wasn't looking like a terrific GM. They got the right coaching in place, and then we saw things really take off. So. That's kind of my view of McCagnon. I'm leaning towards letting him stay. I don't think he's some amazing GM. I think he's been about average, mediocre to average. I think, the Sam Darnold thing. If he didn't draft Sam Darnold, if he missed on that, or if he even drafted a guy like, I love Josh Rosen. I think Josh Rosen's going to be good. But if we drafted Josh Rosen and he's playing like he is playing, I think Mac would be gone. The fact that he got Sam Darnold, who was a little lucky to get, but the trade was well. He didn't give up a first-round draft pick, and he got Herndon in the fourth. Yeah, I think that he's not going to be fired. There's not really a point in debating it. I think I could see the argument for firing him, but right now I guess I'm leaning towards keeping the structure in place. I will say there is a little bit of a small noise, I guess, on Jets Twitter about firing him and promoting Herman Dinger or whatever you pronounce his name, who's young. 32, but is credited with the trade up for Sam Darnold and doing a lot of the quarterback research and whatnot. But right now, I guess I'm leaning towards keeping Mac. You have to extend him because I know I'm rambling, Kyle. I'm sorry. I'll give you the chance in like 30 seconds here. You don't want to. No coach is going to want to join a lame duck GM, so you're going to have to extend him or fire him now because you don't want a situation where you hire a coach and then you have to fire a GM and you have to marry him, and it's an ugly situation. So I can see both sides. I won't be really mad either way. I don't think really the polar opposite sides are necessarily correct. I think it's more in the middle. I guess I'm siding towards keeping him right now because that's what I think is going to happen. But I certainly think there's a fair argument for firing him. He's had plenty of bad misses. Kyle, your whole take on the McCagnon situation?
Okay, so I'm actually writing an article on it right now. I was driving up and driving back to see family yesterday for Christmas. So I took the time and wrote a little bit of an article about it. And as I was writing it, I'm going through all the draft class and stuff, and I think they've gotten better with time. The first one was horrible, an exception to Leonard Williams, and some people might even tell you that the Leonard Williams pick was horrible. But, as McCagnon has progressed, I think there have obviously been some bad picks who we have to hold him accountable for. But 2016, an exception to Hackenberg, Jordan Jenkins has been a starter for us. I thought that was a very good pick for the third round, considering that he has been a starter for going on 3 years. Next year will be his third, I believe, right? I'm not crazy. Yeah, next year will be his third. But no, this year's his third. He'll be going on his fourth next year. And then Justin Burris, he was back up for a little bit. He's gone now. Brandon Shell's been a high-level right tackle starter, which is hard to find in the later rounds in the NFL. And considering the lack of depth in the NFL in general when it comes to offensive line, I think that's been a phenomenal pick. Lachlan Edwards, I mean, say what you want about drafting punters. I mean, he's been a decent punter for us for, his entire career with us so far. And then Sharon Peak has been, when Montez Miles, seeing as he's been injured for basically the past year and a half, Sharon Peak's been our best special teamer, has been a, decent backup wide receiver who has had some success before. It wasn't a bad draft class. Obviously Christian Hackenberg hinders it quite a bit. But then 2017 got a lot better. Marcus May, I think that's a good pick, despite his injuries right now. Ardarius Stewart and Chad Hansen, I really don't know what happened there. I mean, both of those guys getting cut within 2 years. I don't understand why even drafting back-to-back receivers when we were deep there. Obviously, I think both of them were extremely talented. Hansen showed a lot in the offseason. Ardarius showed a lot on tape. I guess it just didn't work out with coaching or something. That's going to be my assumption. Jordan Leggett, he's made a couple catches this year, right? I mean,
yeah. I think his potential to be a solid number 2 tight end. I think the Jets still probably should sign one. Also, quick side note, and I'm not trying to ruin your momentum here. Eric Tomlinson dropped weights on his toe and lacerated, or he dropped weights on his foot, and lacerated a few toes, and now he's placed in IR. And
that's why we picked up Clive Wolford.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. But then, after Leggett, Dylan Donahue, DUI, there are some things you just cannot hold against GMs in general. I think it's unfair. Of course, you have to evaluate character as a player, but you cannot predict that a guy with no history of DUIs and stuff, at least that are shown on his record, you cannot tell me that that's the general manager's fault because a guy got a DUI and got cut or suspended because of it. I find that hard to hold against, a general manager. I will hold that against the player before anything else. Elijah McGuire, I think that was a nice find in the 6th round. Jeremy Clark and Derek Jones, they're both still on the team. Derek Jones looked good in preseason. We've yet to see him actually active. And then, for the most part, this year's draft class, it's hard to judge, an exception to guys like Perry Nickerson and Trenton Cannon and Chris Herndon, who Herndon and Trenton Cannon have played significant snaps, and Nickerson looked decent in the preseason. He's looked, all right, I guess, for a backup corner. So, I think the draft classes definitely need to get better, but you look at the players in general that Maccagnan has acquired, and I'll give him credit for, he's built a solid core around all 3 sides of the ball. Obviously, with the offense, Darnold, Robbie, Quincy, who is an upcoming free agent, who I don't know what we're going to do. I'm assuming we're going to tag him because we really don't have anybody else that we have to tag. Herndon, Brandon Shaw, and Elijah McGuire, those are decent things to build around, right? You have good pieces there at key positions of quarterback, right tackle, and I honestly think if Robbie Anderson keeps playing the way he does, that he could be a legitimate number 1 receiver if he continues to diversify his route tree. And I know I'm rambling, so I'll pick it up. Defense, Henry Anderson, solid trade there. Leonard Williams, I think it was a good pick. Darren Lee, I thought that was a good pick. He's definitely showing it now. Avery Williamson, great signing in free agency. Jamal Adams, great pick. Marcus May, good pick for the 2nd round. And then on special teams, underrated. Mike Maccagnan brought in all these guys. Jason Myers, Pro Bowl. Andre Roberts, 30-year-old, Pro Bowl. Got him somehow the best year of his career. Sharon Peake, good special teamer. Our best gunner.
Brent Boyer deserves, again, this goes back.
Obviously, coaching has a big part of it. But
and that could even be used for a Pro-Mac argument. That could even be used as a Pro-Mac argument. If you look what good coaching did to the players that delivered. If the Jets had, I don't even remember the special teams coordinator that the Jets had a few years ago, would Andre Roberts and Jason Myers be having the years that they're having? Probably not. So maybe Mac does deserve better coaching before we evaluate his talent. Continue.
Yes. So I'm just saying there's a lot of good and bad with Maccagnan that I think balances out, like you were saying earlier. Good at trades, good at free agency signings. People can say what they want about free agency. You cannot sit here and tell me that people didn't want Ryan Fitzpatrick back because they did. And honestly, he was the best option. We knew that Ryan Fitzpatrick wasn't going to play well, but what was the other option there? We really didn't have one. Geno Smith, we know that's not the true answer. I mean, I honestly would have been going in with Ryan Fitzpatrick. It's an unfortunate situation to be in, but that's what happens when you had a win-now owner in 2015. Muhammad Wilkerson. We could not have predicted that he was going to be lazy, that he was going to quit playing the game of football after he signed a huge contract. You really can't hold that against a general manager, and fans can say what they want about wasting money. We're fine. We have $100 million in cap, going to be more. I think it's going to be 119 this year. We had $100 million last year. It really didn't affect the cap. Tremaine Johnson this year, it's looking like another player that everybody wanted. He got paid, and he's basically, so far, quit on the team. Hasn't been playing well. Now he's missing practices. Now he's missing meetings. You cannot blame that on a general manager. At some point, it comes to coaches for getting the most out of players, and sometimes sometimes players are just quitters after they get paid. They get big bank, and they stop playing. You know what? I don't blame them to an extent, but I would never quit on my team like that. So I think there have been great things about Mac, specifically with his trading. I think he's a great trader. Ryan Fitzpatrick, Brandon Marshall, Henry Anderson, I guess even Ryan Clady to an extent. And then the drafting needs to improve. I think he's hit on all of his first-round picks pretty well. The mid-round picks need to get a lot better. And I think the late-round picks have been pretty decent considering, Elijah McGuire, Lachlan Edwards, Jerome Peake, guys like that who have become contributors. And then free agency, I think for the most part, is something that he has hit on a couple guys like Avery Williamson, Darrelle Revis for 1 year. There are a lot of other guys, James Carpenter, just off the top of my head. And then there are obviously bad contracts that we've given out, but we still recovered for them. So I think Mike Maccagnan, in my eyes, is somebody that if you hire a head coach like Jim Harbaugh who wants to bring in his own guy, go ahead, do it. I'm not going to fight you on it. But if you trust the general manager enough, which I do trust Mike Maccagnan. If you want him to go find your coach, whoever that may be, let him do it. I could really see both sides. I'm comfortable with Mike Maccagnan. I do trust him to an extent, and we'll see if my trust is misguided because this is the most influential offseason in Jets history. We have the blueprint of two legitimate generational-like talents in Sam Darnold and Jamal Adams who captain both sides of the ball. It's rare that you have two generational players on your team, two legitimate guys who will go down in history books as far as it's looking right now. So you have to build around them. And then there are other key pieces that I think we already have. So this is the time. $100 million in cap space is the time to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And a high draft pick. So I hope I'm right.
No, you're right. This is a very important offseason in Jets history. Let's go ahead and get to a caller and another contributor at Turn on the Jets. Greg Armstrong joins us now. Greg, how's it going, man?
Oh. What's up, pals? What was that for, Kyle?
Pals?
Kyle, you kind of gave a negative groan that you were upset that Greg was into the show. What was that about, Kyle?
Yeah.
I don't know. He never texted me back, so.
Greg doesn't text anybody back.
You guys sound like you're itching. You guys sound like you're itching to write for a certain magazine with all this pro Mac talk.
Oh boy. No. Well, let's talk about it.
No. I usually
you didn't hear the beginning to this debate.
Yeah, I respect Joe. He's obviously my boss, and putting that aside, I respect his opinions. I understand that he's learned from past Jets mistakes, and I understand right now that he has a different opinion than me. That does not bring me to that dark side. All right, do not get confused there. I will stomp on Jay, and I clearly already have in the past.
Okay.
All right,
I don't care
what Jay says.
All right.
Something I agree with him on. That doesn't mean I'm going over there.
He's
all right,
listening.
now that that's out of the way.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure he does listen. He does listen.
No, look.
Now that that's out of the way.
My thing. Well, Greg, let's get
tonight. Kyle talking crap about me again.
All right. Let's cool it.
Ask him how his white blood cells are doing.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay. That was. I should just pull a Joe Buck. That was a disgusting act by Kyle Fahey. Greg, let's get your take on that one out. No, well, you can do that.
Yeah.
Greg, let's get your take on Mike Maccagnan.
Your Jet take?
Yes, your Jet take. Look, Kyle seems more pro Maccagnan than I am, but we're both kind of on the fence of, look, I think he's been average, but he did deliver the first franchise quarterback, and he did deliver all-pro safety, and he's had some other nice moves here and there, but obviously some bad misses. I think he's just kind of been average at best, so I think I'm leaning towards the Jets staying. The Jets are going probably to stay with him, so that's I guess why I'm leaning towards keeping him. What's your whole opinion on Mike Maccagnan?
I mean, we saw what he did with $100 million in cap space last year. We saw what he did with $100 million in cap space his first year. And it's like, all right, cap space is fun, but we turned that into, guys that aren't even on the roster 4 years ago. And we turned that into Spencer Long, who's been a disgrace. Isaiah Crowell, who's now hurt and had really just one good game. We turned that into Avery Williamson, who's been fine. And then Tremaine Johnson. I mean, I'm not going to fault for Tremaine Johnson just because I was very in on Johnson in free agency. I'm not going to, I thought he was a good player, and he obviously fell off a cliff this year. But, his drafting has just been bad. And it's fine to have Leonard Williams fall into your lap, and it's, it's fine to have Jamal Adams fall into your lap, but I'm not going to go back and rehash, they could have had Mahomes or they could have had Watts, and it's good to get Darnold, but it's like those are easy picks. Like, us three could have made those picks. And when it comes down to it, you see all these other teams.
I would have taken Josh.
You see all these. All right, well, the fact that remains is that you would have picked a quarterback. And Rosen aside, I mean, he's just in a terrible situation in Arizona. But anyways, you just see McCagnon and just see all these misses in the middle rounds and the later rounds. And, I'm sick of seeing Elijah McGuire, he looks like a piece. Well, he looks like a piece because the two top guys are injured, and he's getting more reps. I mean, he's a complimentary back at best. And, yeah, trading for Henry Anderson is good, like you guys were saying. Like, he's very good at making trades. But when it comes down to it, you see these teams, like the Saints, and you see these guys like, I mean, the Rams are in a different stratosphere just because they work the trade market and they had more homegrown talent. But it's like you need a guy who can get picks in the later rounds and turn them into formidable pieces. And we just haven't seen that with Mac. And am I this anti-Mac guy? No, I just don't think we should trust him, like Kyle was saying, in probably the most important offseason in Jets history. I would love to be proved wrong by Mac. If Mac can turn this around, absolutely, I'm all for it, as all Jets fans should be, whether you're pro Mac or whether you're anti-Mac. Just seeing some guy turn it around for this franchise is really all we want to see. But I just don't see, from the track record that he has, I just don't see it happening this offseason with him.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, his drafting overall has been pretty terrible. I think the first year has skewed it a little bit. I mean, but it's not excusable to remove it. But if you do remove it, it's been a little better, but I would say it's been average. I mean, he's a bad miss in Hackenberg. Looks like he has a good miss in a good hit in Sam Darnold, even if he got a little lucky there. And so I think it's the Mac debate is almost pointless though, because I don't think he's getting fired.
Right.
Unless, as Kyle kind of talked about, unless there's some big name head coach that the only way they're going to get him is if he has full control. He becomes GM head coach. I mean, I think that's the only way Mac gets fired. And even if the Jets hire Harbaugh, Mac might still remain as the GM, but even if he's conceding personnel decisions to the head coach. So that's really the only way I see he gets fired. Or if the Jets play absolutely horrible, I guess this week. I don't think they're going to be a bad enough game where he'd get fired, but I've been wrong before. I think he's staying. And as far as the Tremaine Johnson thing goes, and I guess it's a good debate. Yeah, I mean I'm not gonna. I mean, I wasn't as in on him just because I knew he was going to be a huge price tag. But I'd be lying if I said when we signed him I wasn't excited. I was like, oh, here's a big name free agent. I'm excited. He's obviously going to be good. And, I mean, Mac took a swing on a guy he thought could be a shutdown corner, and he wasn't. As we said, he's probably more like the 11th or 12th best corner in football, 10th, which is fine. You can win with having corners that level. But he hasn't even played to that. He's probably, bottom 20, if that, as a corner this year, and has struggled injuries. I think it's hard to get too on him for that. I think his free agents have been better than his drafting, but it's been hit or miss for the most part. I wanted to get your thoughts, Greg. Baker Mayfield this weekend. I mean, anytime you talk about Sam Darnold, you're certain to get at least 10 to 15 Browns fans in your mentions talking about how Baker Mayfield is better than him. It's an inferiority complex, I guess, that Cleveland just has, or insecurity about losing their quarterback or team to Baltimore again or something. But obviously, people have been talking a little bit about this week about him staring down Hugh Jackson, the antic on the sideline with his
Obviously, I love Baker Mayfield. I would just like.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on it. I mean, this is a what-if scenario. Do you think this would have played well in New York? I mean, obviously it wouldn't have played terrifically, but do you think that things kind of worked out for the best as the Jets got their level-headed Sam Darnold and Cleveland got their blue-collar Baker Mayfield? How would you have seen that kind of scenario going with Baker Mayfield here in New York?
Oh, I mean...
Yeah, I mean...
that was to Greg. That was to Greg.
I thought you said Kyle. Oh.
Nope.
Well, here's the thing.
No, I mean, Baker...
So Greg, shut up.
No. It's Greg. It's what? No, back off, Kyle. I'll put you on mute. Just Greg, answer the question.
You wouldn't dare mute me, Ben.
All right, am I speaking now?
Yes.
Okay.
Despite what this immature 12-year-old says.
So Baker, I I had Baker as my QB1 going into the draft. So him going first to the Browns really didn't – it kind of surprised me just from what we heard pre-draft that it was just all Darnold. But for a team that hasn't had much of anything to be happy about, and like basically since we've all been alive, they have this electric quarterback who is right now probably the front runner to be Offensive Rookie of the Year, despite how well Saquon's played. I mean, it's let him just talk what he wants to do. I mean, let these Browns fans do what they want. I mean, I saw something on Twitter today saying, Browns fans have been told to just shut up for the past however many years, and they finally get a guy in a real piece and not just this kind of bridge quarterback playing well, and they're finally talking and people tell them to shut up. It's like, I mean, if Baker was playing like this for the Jets and they were winning, we would be the most annoying fan base in the history of sports. I mean, we probably are now, but we'd even be more annoying. As for
if he stared down Bill Belichick like that, I think New York would just implode. Like,
yeah, I mean, it would be insane. But if he was doing the same thing he's doing in Cleveland with the Jets right now, and say they're like a 5-6 win team, it wouldn't go well just because of the media market and how New York is portrayed and how basically New York is it's all about wins and losses. And I think it worked out perfectly just from the two attitudes because the Jets they have their Baker Mayfield per se and Jamal Adams. He's going to do all the talking. You're going to see I love when he dances on the field and I love the way he plays and all that stuff. But that's basically our Baker Mayfield in a sense. And Sam is the perfect guy for this team and for this actual media market because he's not going to give you the headline grabbing quotes. He's not going to slip up in media. He's not going to do anything, off the field that's going to create a headline or a back page story. He's just going to go in, he's going to play football, and he's going to play football well. And he's going to be quiet about his business. And we knew coming into this year that it wasn't about wins and losses. It was more about what does Sam bring to the table? Is he going to be the guy for 2019 and beyond? And I think from what we've seen, he's most definitely the guy, and he's the perfect guy for this. I mean, and a lot of the fans outside of Jet fans, they look at it it's just about QB wins and losses. And it's like, well, if you're looking at it that way, you're stuck in the 1980s and you're stuck in the 1990s. Like, just turn on some Sam Darnold tape and actually watch what this kid's doing, and you'll see that he's not even close to the problem for this team, especially in the last 3 weeks. I mean, for as much as people talked about sitting Darnold in the first to start the season, we saw what Josh McCown brought to the table in 3 games, and it was absolutely nothing. And maybe Sam getting injured, albeit I didn't enjoy those 3 weeks, and albeit it came from Spencer Long and Todd Bowles' inept coaching style, but maybe Sam's sitting for the 3 weeks and realizing, and seeing games slow down from the sidelines and coming back and having these 3 stellar games against Buffalo, Houston, and Green Bay, and hopefully this week against New England. Maybe that's exactly what this kid needed, and maybe we're going to look back in 2 or 3 years and that was going to be the blessing in disguise. But main point, I think it's perfect the way it worked out. I think both teams are happy with their quarterbacks. Cleveland fans, just let them talk whatever they want to do. I mean, if I didn't have anything to cheer about for the past 15 years and Baker Mayfield came into my life and is this electric factory, then I would be talking the utmost stuff to everybody. So I think it's fine. I think we have 2 really good young QBs in the AFC, and I think it's going to be set up for some good rivalries in the years to come.
Yeah, exactly. Kyle, would you like to give your take really quickly on Baker Mayfield? Because I want to move on to more Jets-centric topics, but go ahead.
I would like to give my Jet take on this, Ben. I think Baker Mayfield would be fantastic in New York. He's the second coming of Broadway Joe. I mean, he will be probably a top 5 quarterback in the NFL for a long time, hopefully. Praying that he stays healthy like all these young quarterbacks. And he's got the attitude. I think he's got some beef right now with Hugh Jackson. I don't think that would have been the case in New York because there isn't right now a scenario where the head coach would have been fired. So I don't think we would be seeing him staring down Hugh Jackson on the sideline. But I do think he would be an interesting person in New York.
My thing with Baker coming out was if he's winning, it's fine. But this New York media will eat you alive if you're pulling that kind of stuff and you're still going 4-12, 5-11, 6-10. That was my only concern really with Baker coming out. Is it's fine if he's doing this while we're winning, but what happens if we're losing? And if he throws for 4 touchdowns one game and he's talking, but he throws for 3 interceptions the next game, like you kind of have to keep that same energy throughout. But that was my main thing coming out for him in New York.
Yeah, I agree for sure. All right, Greg,
Yeah,
let's talk a little bit more about the Jets. I guess we'll start with Sam Darnold, then we'll talk about some coaching candidates. We'll start with Darnold. I mean, look, he's been much better these past few weeks. Do you think Jeremy Bates deserves some credit for this resurgence? Do you think that he was more hampered by Darnold's, skills at the beginning of the season, and that's why he was calling such a vanilla offense? I mean, obviously you saw this last week. It looked like he just decided he was going to throw every first down, because I believe he did all the way up until like the fourth quarter, in the middle of that. And he looked much more creative, and it was incorporating some jet sweep type of concepts and different personnel packages. It was a lot more creative in the play calling. So how much credit do you think Bates deserves for Sam Darnold's, terrific, I guess it's 9 quarters now. He had the 2 great games against the Texans and Packers, and then the last quarter against the Bills, obviously. Or do you think this is more just Darnold just watched McCown and grew, and he's doing all this, and despite the bad play calling and the bad personnel around him?
I think for as much stuff as we've given Bates the entire season, and looking back on it now, it was frustrating to watch in the moment, just the way that he'd open up the offense for a couple of possessions for Sam, and he would thrive in that. I mean, we saw it against Chicago on the 1 touchdown drive, where they weren't doing anything on offense all day, and then he opened it up a little bit in that drive and ended up scoring a touchdown. So I think in these last 3 games, we have to give some credit to Bates. I think he realized we're not in practices, we're not seeing what they're working on throughout the entire week, but I think he realized, and albeit it was a little too late, but he realized maybe Sam can handle a little bit more of a workload. And we see the difference in play calling. It's not simply just running it right up the right or the left side every first down, and I could tell it's going to happen from my couch. He's opening up the offense. He's running some play actions on first down, and we saw the touchdown to Herndon on Sunday, where the pass to Robbie beforehand, and they ran a hurry up right into it, and the defense was flustered, and it led to the Herndon touchdown. So I think he's opening it up a little more, but that's also because of Sam, and he's seen that Sam can make these throws, and Sam is making a lot of really good decisions and a lot of veteran moves. We saw the one against Houston where he basically put Tyrann Mathieu in a spin zone just from a shoulder fake. And I think we saw the touchdown to Robbie this week where he faked out half the defense on a little screen to Cannon. So I think it's a combination of both. And like I was saying, I think Darnold sitting for those 3 weeks was probably the best thing that could have happened to him at this point in his season. And Bates' play calling has definitely improved. They're taking a lot more downfield shots. It sucks that we're not seeing Quincy Enunwa as much, just because I was sick of seeing him just run bubble screens and just run these routes into the flat. I think he would elevate Darnold's game even more if they had him out there. But Jermaine Kearse had a good game last week. The play calling has been very, very good. Sam has been very, very good. I don't think we can give all of this credit just to Darnold for as credible as he's been these past 3 weeks. I do think we have to give some credit to Bates in that as well.
Yeah, and for sure. And, you bring up, Quincy, and it's frustrating that he wasn't used more outside and down the field, which is where he had success in 2016. He certainly showed that, he's obviously yards after catch receiver, and he showed that he had, that great play against Jacksonville and whatnot. That, he can break plenty of tackles, and, his only touchdown of the year was week 1, and it was a little, route to the flat. He can be used in the inside, but he can't just be a bubble screen receiver. He's more than that. And unfortunately, his playing style at the moment, the way that Bates played him, is partially, led to all the injuries that he's had this year, just the beating that he's taking, week in, week out. I think he should be used more on the outside next year. I don't think he should be relied on, as a known entity, as a guy who's, going to be a number 1 wide receiver or anything. But I think he is a weapon and somebody that our, next Jets head coach and offensive coordinator should definitely look to utilize in a different fashion. Really quickly on Bates before we talk about head coaches, do you think there's any chance or that he stays on the staff, maybe as a QB coach or anything, just for familiarity with Darnold, or do you think he's toast and maybe they'll bring, McCown in as a QB coach or somebody else?
So, honestly, I think if they get rid of Bowles, the next guy that comes in, my gut feeling is that Bates is out. And whether that's the right decision or the wrong decision, I don't really know. I personally would probably just put him back as a QB coach. I think him calling plays, for like we were just talking about, for as good as it's been the last couple of weeks, you got to look at the whole sample. And throughout the entire year, a lot of the stuff that we've written has just been predicated on, Bates' play calling is bad. His play calling down the stretch hasn't been very good. I think he's in a little too far over his head being an offensive coordinator for not doing it for so long. But my gut feeling is when they bring in a new coach, I think the new coach is going to want to bring in his own guys to work with Darnold. So I think Bates is out. I personally would keep him as a QB coach, though.
I kind of agree with that. I mean, I think I would see McCown's interest in being, potentially being the QB coach. But, yeah, I think Bates does bring something to the table, as we've seen in the last few weeks. Certainly not as an offensive coordinator and as a play caller, but, for Sam's development, I would maybe look into keeping him as a QB coach because that's what he's looking at becoming is he's either going to take more time off in the NFL or go back to being a QB coach. So he might accept it to stick with Sam. Now talking about head coaches. A lot of options out there for the Jets. Some argue it's a weak market. I think that if the Jets dig deeper and look into the college ranks, you can find some strong candidates there. And I think there are some strong offensive candidates as well in the NFL and the assistant ranks. I guess I'll start with you. Who are some of the guys that you're interested in, that you like? And then we can move on and talk about who you think the Jets will end up interviewing and hiring. But let's start with, you're Mike McCagnon. You're making the call. Who are some of the candidates out there that you think could really be good for New York?
So I haven't really dove into specific coaches that I want for the Jets, mainly because I've been focusing more on the draft. But if I'm looking for a head coach for this team, I don't want a guy. I'm not sold on Mike McCarthy. I think if you can't get it with Aaron Rodgers, I don't think you're good here. And we saw some of the same mistakes that Bowles has been making, that McCarthy has been harped on. And I'm going to be honest, I haven't watched a ton of Packers, but from what I've seen from Packers people that I follow is that you're kind of getting some of the same things with McCarthy as you are with Bowles. And maybe a change of scenery is all he needs, but I'm just not sold on him. As far as other coaches, I kind of just want, a younger guy with offensive experience. They haven't hired. The last 3 or 4 Jets hires have been. I mean, Kyle, I thought he was on mute, Ben. Anyways, I want somebody who's got an offensive mind. We've seen, Herman's defense, Rex's defense, Mangini's defense, and now Bowles' defense. It's obviously defense is not this team's forte right now, and for as much money as they've invested in the defense, it's obviously gone to nothing. So I want to see them, kind of go with the trend and not be stuck 10 years behind the trend as we've seen in the past, and go with a more offensive-minded guy. Go with a guy who is going to incorporate some of the offenses in college that we see. Take some of those. See what Darnold did well at USC. Bring that into the Jets' play calling. And I don't want to hire one of these guys that's going to be a first-year head coach. I know the hot commodities in football now is hiring those offensive coordinators. And while it's worked, you see it with McVay, you see it a little bit with Shanahan. I just don't think with this team that's the way to go. I think they need a guy who's shown that he can be a head coach, whether it's at the college level, whether it's at the pro level, who's shown that he can build himself a staff, who's shown that he can make these decisions. Because it's totally different being an offensive coordinator and then being faced with running an entire team. And right now we're in Darnold's prime. I mean, he's got 4 years. We have to capitalize on that. And while I see him signing an extension, you got to capitalize on it now. And I don't want to see them make a head coaching hire where it's going to set them back 2 or 3 years, and we're going to be in the same spot, in 2021.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree with that. Kyle, what is your take on a guy or guys that you think the Jets should target, that if it was you, who you think that they would eventually hire?
So I'm doing the hiring? Is that what I'm...
Yeah. So, okay. I mean, I'm just starting, with these are guys you would look into. These are guys that you would hire. Not necessarily because I just tweeted out who do you think the Jets will hire. That's different. That's a different case because, there are guys like I would interview, why am I spacing on his name right now? Mike Leach, head coach from Washington State. But there's no way that...
electric.
But there's no way he becomes a head coach. I would look into it. He's one of the most innovative minds in all of football. But I don't think he becomes the head coach of the Jets. That's kind of, if you're Mike McCagnon, who are some of the guys that you're looking at? I mean, try to make it somewhat realistic. Mike Leach is at least Mike Leach is on the line of not being realistic, but he's there.
I guess this is interesting because I could make a lot of cases that guys are realistic, just if they want to, get out of the college scene. I think realistic right now. I do think John Harbaugh is still realistic. I said last week that I thought he was going to be the Jets head coach. I don't think that's going to be the case anymore, given the success that he's having this year, and obviously the team is committed to him regardless of what the new GM is going to want. I think it really is a matter of whether Harbaugh wants to stay or not, and I do think he wants to stay because he has something special there in Baltimore with the defense and Lamar Jackson. From there, I'm not, like I was saying earlier, I'm not too impressed with this crop of head coaches. I think the Jets really have their work cut out for them in finding a head coach. I think you have to look to the college ranks right now and find somebody who has really not been successful but is a good offensive mind. It's going to be hard to do. And I guess my answer, just to cop out, is John Harbaugh, because I can't sit here and tell you I've done research on every possible guy in college or every offensive coordinator in the NFL. Pete Carmichael is a guy that, Ben, I've talked about before on the show, who I would be interested in. Great success with the Saints, and obviously the Drew Brees factor is in there, but he's done a good job. Factor. Obviously, but he's still been their offensive coordinator for 11 years now, so he's got to be doing something right, and I think he knows enough about the NFL where you could hire him if you want. But my wish is John Harbaugh.
All right, Greg, we're gonna play a little game here, and then we'll let you go. I'm gonna give you. Oh, God damn it, Kyle. Well, this one's sober. So I'm going to give you a head coach, and you're going to say, a 3-word answer about him, or under 3 words, your feelings on him. Okay, so it could be a 1-word, 2-word, but keep it short. But actually, I'm not even going to limit you to 3 words because that'd be hard. Just keep it short. Just your very brief, quick-hitting thoughts on these head coaches. Are you interested? Do you think they'd be a good hire for the Jets? Do you think it's realistic? Whatever. So I'll start with Mike McCarthy. Greg. I guess Kyle will let you play too, but we'll start with Greg, and then I'll go to Kyle. Quick hitting thought on Mike McCarthy. Are you interested in him as the head coach of the Jets?
No. No.
No. Perfect.
No.
All right, perfect. Kyle, your thoughts on Mike McCarthy?
Oh, this is quick hits. This is definitely your game, Ben. No.
I think that was a shot at premature ejaculation, but all right.
Yeah.
I think that's what he's saying there. Okay. Jim Harbaugh. We'll start with Greg.
1,000% yes.
Kyle?
That's all I have to say.
Yes.
Well, Kyle, you can give some sort of adjective, but okay.
Sure. Yeah, stop copying me, Kyle.
You think sure is an adjective? Oh God. Okay. Okay.
Wait. Hold up. I was thinking cinnamon. Cinnamon.
You're thinking of cinnamon?
Cinnamon. That's your adjective. Cinnamon.
No, cinnamon.
Okay.
Synonym.
The green car.
Synonym.
What's the adjective in? Okay. Oh, synonyms. Oh, okay. There you go. Oh, you thought I said synonyms, and you said cinnamon, which is arguably more embarrassing than using cinnamon as your adjective. But okay. Greg, Eric Bieniemy.
Yes. I would be very open to bringing someone like him in for this team.
Perfect. Kyle?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
All right. Matt Campbell.
100% yes. He's probably at the top of my list.
Kyle?
Yeah, he's one of those, college coaches that I was talking about. One of the unexperienced, not too successful guys, but.
Yeah, feel free to give Iowa State this season.
Yeah, you can give a justification. Just try to keep it. I was trying to fly through this game, but you don't just have to say yes. You can say yes because blah blah blah. Don't worry, I have plenty more guys on this list. Kyle, you're a guy, Pete Carmichael, but we'll start with Greg. Saints offensive coordinator. I'll give as this list goes on, I can give more of a short, where they come from, because I wouldn't have known, like Todd Monken, I didn't know he was offensive coordinator for the Bucs, but we'll start with Pete Carmichael.
Yeah, I would be open to bringing him in. Yeah.
Kyle?
We see what the Saints offense has done.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, obviously Pete Carmichael is one of the guys I've talked about. So.
All right, Zach Taylor, quarterbacks coach for the Rams. Greg?
I'm really in on Taylor, but for a head coach, I don't think right now would be the right time to do it.
And we're going to pause the game just for a second. Do you think there's a chance that he would be willing to be an offensive coordinator, kind of like Matt LaFleur left Sean McVay to get more autonomy? Do you think that there's a chance, if the Jets get the right head coach, that Taylor would take an OC job with the Jets? This is for Greg.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get Taylor to be your offensive coordinator, I'd hire him in an instant to be that. But I just don't think head coaching right now he'd be the guy for it.
All right, Kyle, your thoughts on Zach Taylor as head coach?
I don't think it's time for him yet. Give him more time maybe.
All right, Greg, Matt Rule, head coach at Baylor.
No. Anyone associated with Baylor right now, I'm pretty much out on.
Whoa. No, okay, great. No, let me put you back in your place. Matt Rule fixed Baylor. All right, that's Art Briles. Hey, you're thinking.
Again, I know who I'm thinking of. I just don't. No, I'm good.
All right, I disagree. Yes, Ben, I would. Matt Rule, yes.
All right, Dan Campbell, tight end coach with the Saints, interim head coach of the Dolphins a few years ago. Thinks that a lot of people in NFL circles think he can be the next great, CEO, motivator type head coach. Greg?
Yeah, I mean, him being a motivator, yeah, but as a head coach, I don't really know. I mean, I thought him with the Dolphins was more of, we got Philbin out of here, and this guy was the exact kind of medicine we needed. Kind of like Todd Bowles was the medicine for Rex Ryan being so, out there and being this talkative guy. I think Campbell was kind of that guy for the Dolphins. I personally wouldn't hire him now.
Mm-hmm. Kyle?
I'll pass, my guy.
All right, Dave Taub, Greg, special teams coach with the Chiefs.
He's an interesting one. I'd give him a look. But if we're going to go special teams, I'm kind of talking myself into Boyer. If we're going to go that route, I would promote from within and hire Boyer if we're going to go special teams. He's an interesting one. I'm on the fence on him.
So I'll add Boyer to this for Greg. Would you consider? I mean, do you think he'll get an interview? Would you consider hiring him as the head coach?
I think you have to at least give him an interview. I don't know if he'd get it. I think it's too early to get that kind of job, but I think you should at least 100% give him an interview.
All right, Kyle, your thoughts on Dave Taub and then Brent Boyer?
Definitely Brent Boyer, because I think he's done a good job. And this is his second or third year with the Jets, right?
Second, I think, right?
Second, okay.
Maybe third.
I think he was hired after Bobby April, which was 2015, right?
Yeah, I think so. There's so many
Okay, so we'll just say
Jags.
This is his third year. Yeah, just a guy. But Brent Boyer has actually done a good job. And I think if we were going to look at guys who come from special teams backgrounds, unless, of course, we're talking about John Harbaugh, Brent Boyer should be our guy. He should be the in-house candidate that we give a legitimate interview to.
Mm. And, I don't think you should just overlook it. And, an in-house candidate, as we see, Danny Lynn might win Coach of the Year with the Chargers. He interviewed for Todd Bowles' job as he was the running back coach of the Jets. And a lot of people just scoffed it off as, this is just a Rooney Rule thing. He's not going to get the job. Maybe. I mean, I guess he wasn't as experienced as he is now. Maybe the Jets should have, given him more serious consideration. All right, two more. Chris Peterson, head coach of the University of Washington. Greg?
I don't know enough about Chris Peterson, so I am removing myself from this one.
Kyle?
I think he's produced a lot of NFL talent in the past couple of years for the Washington program. I cannot sit here and tell you that I know enough about him to tell you if he's an NFL coach or not, but I know he's produced a lot of good NFL talent. So.
All right, last one. Kind of a hot name the last few days or so. Todd Monken, not just for the Jets, but is becoming a head coach. Todd Monken, offensive coordinator with the Buccaneers. Greg, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I'm good on that. I mean, the Bucs offense has been fun, but as like a head coach, I'm not too sold on the Bucs offense. So I'm gonna pass on that one.
All right, Kyle, last one. Todd Monken.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass.
All right. So it kind of seems like you guys are more favoring, Jim Harbaugh Matt Campbell, Pete Carmichael. Those were kind of the names that seemed and Eric Bieniemy was in there for a second. But it sounded like Matt Campbell was the guy that was unanimous between both of you. So you're both kind of on the Matt Campbell bandwagon, bringing him in. I mean, I will say Albert Breer keeps, linking him with the Jets, and we know how, plugged in Breer was with management during the whole quarterback thing. That's a quick plug for the Play Like a Jet podcast. You can go listen to his whole thing with Scott Mason there. But, Albert Breer is plugged into the Jets organization, and he keeps floating out, Matt Campbell. He's certainly a young offensive up-and-coming mind. Some might worry about, can he make the big jump from Ohio State to head coach of the New York Jets? That remains to be seen, but I'm in on Campbell. It sounds like you two are too. So I guess for the Jet Take purposes, it sounds like Matt Campbell's our favorite candidate. Does that sound good?
Sure.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Great adjective there, Kyle. All right, Greg, before we close, Pat's game this weekend. What are your thoughts on it, your expectations? What do you want to happen? Your bold prediction for the game. I'm really just throwing all these questions at you at once. Just your overall prediction and thoughts and analysis on this game and what you want to happen.
First off, I'm ecstatic that this is actually a meaningful game for New England because they're actually going to have to play, and that means we're going to see Darnold against a legitimate Belichick defense. As for expectations, what we've seen the past 2 weeks, I really hope it's kind of the same, where the Jets keep it competitive. Sam Darnold has a very good game, but ultimately they end up improving their draft position. The worst thing not the worst thing. If Darnold balls out, throws for 450 and 5 touchdowns, and the Jets win, you'll be hard pressed to find a Jets fan that'll be that upset anywhere. But I would say, I think Darnold has another good game. This will be his really true test because Belichick is known for playing well against rookie QBs. I think he has another good game. And I think it just comes down to the defense again. And, I don't think they're going to be able to stop Brady in the fourth quarter when it actually matters. I think they'll have a little bit more success than they have in the past couple of weeks just because New England's offense doesn't really look that great. But, I think it'll be more of the past 2 weeks with the Jets are kind of playing, above their heads against a team like this. Darnold plays well, and they ultimately end up losing, and we end up with a top 3 pick this year.
Yeah, for sure, Kyle.
I'm going to be honest. So what was the question?
Okay, never mind. I'll just close with Greg, and then I'll come back to Kyle for this. Look.
I heard him talking about the offseason and stuff, but what was the question?
The offseason, that's what he thought you were talking about. All right. Kyle, we'll come back. That was almost my mistake because I was just going to close off with Greg, and then we'll talk about it. But, Greg, it was great having you on the show and getting your thoughts on the Jets-Pats game, Kyle. I agree. I think, part of me, at the end of the year, part of me wants to cheer for a win here. That's kind of what I'm doing. I think, it doesn't matter what I do. I won't be upset with really any outcome of this game as long as Darnold plays well. If the Jets win and Darnold plays really well, I'm not going to be upset if we're picking fourth. And then he lights up New England and we win and we beat, Tom Brady. We get some momentum heading into the offseason. It makes us a more attractive spot. In the sense that Darnold has all this momentum, and so I'm not going to complain about that. If he plays really well, like the last 2 weeks, and then they lose, that's probably better for the long term. The Jets, at the very minimum, would have the 3rd pick, could have the 2nd pick. Very likely that they could have the 2nd pick as well, and even would have a shot at the number 1 pick. So there's some incentive there. The most important thing is just that Darnold plays well. But Greg. It's great to have you on, as always, giving your takes, and you were the mediator between Kyle and myself. Is there anything you'd like to plug for TOJ or your Twitter or anything that our listeners can shoot a follow or read or listen?
You can find all my stuff at Turn on the Jets. Follow me on Twitter at @GregArmstrong_, and go follow the Turn on the Jets Instagram, Turn on the Jets _IG. You guys keep doing your thing. Should be a fun off season for everyone listening. I would definitely make it a point to call in during the off season because the takes are going to be more ramped up than the regular season. Yes, the Jet takes, Kyle.
Undoubtedly. Kyle just always feels the need to say that. Undoubtedly. But, Greg, thank you so much for calling in, man. I hope to hear from you during the off season.
Yeah, absolutely, guys.
Love you, Greg.
All right, that was Greg Armstrong. Kyle, before we close, your thoughts this weekend. What do you want to happen, your expectations, your predictions for it, one bold prediction, score prediction type of thing we always do. Just kind of your overall thoughts on the Jets-Pats game. I'll start with you.
I think this game is going to be interesting. The Pats obviously have a lot to fight for in terms of seeding. This is an important game for them, and I do believe Tom Brady has been injured for the majority of the year. I think we talked about that a little bit last week. The Jets' offense has been rolling, and the Patriots have been bad for the last couple weeks. I mean, they lost games that the usual Patriots do not lose. I don't think this is going to be a easy game for either team by any means, but I'm excited to see Darnold against Brady. A lot of people consider him the greatest of all time. He's the second greatest in my mind. You know, this is back-to-back real challenges and quarterback duels. Sam played his part last week very well. He played arguably better than Aaron Rodgers, in my opinion. And I'm excited to see how he duels against Brady, who I think right now is hurt. I think this whole Patriots team is a bit of a wreck, but they always seem to find a way. And this is arguably their most important game of the season in terms of where they play in the playoffs, who they have to play. They have a lot to play for. So I do think the Patriots are going to win. I'm going to guess this is like a 17-13 type of game. Just one of those classic late December Jets-Patriots games. Usually blowouts in this scenario, but I think the Jets' offense is good enough and the Pats overall are bad enough where this is even. But I think it comes down to Belichick versus Todd Bowles, a little less than Brady versus Darnold, and obviously Belichick has the advantage. So, and I guess my bold prediction, Robbie Anderson, 100 yards, I'll just say.
All right.
Or more.
I think that, and I will say, my prediction last week of Sam Darnold, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, came true. So, as far as this game, I kind of already said,
Nostradamus over here.
Yeah, it's the one time I've been right. That and thinking that the Jets are going to draft Aaron Lee. The two things I have going for me, prediction-wise. Look, I think that it's one of those games. I mean, I already said how I'm going to watch the game. That is a friend of the podcast for sure. And given, I guess, his off-field habits, maybe we want to be friends with him away from the mic, too. As far as it goes, a little marijuana joke there. And then I just ruined it. Okay, well, I feel like that would be more serious. But, I feel that, as long as Darnold plays well, I'll be happy. As far as the score, and I think that's actually astute analysis, Kyle, that I think it is going to be more Bowles versus Belichick than Brady versus Darnold. I think Brady is hurt. I would love to see Darnold light up this Patriots and have the Jets smother Brady and win this game. Honestly, I don't care for picking fourth. I won't be mad either way if they lose, but I want Darnold to play well. My score prediction, I'm going to go the Jets are going to win this game. How about that, everybody? We're going to head into the offseason with some momentum. We'll give Todd Bowles a nice farewell. They'll celebrate in the locker room when Chris Johnson says he's being rehired for next year. Just kidding. And I say they're going to win. I'll go 37-24, something like that. I think Darnold keeps his momentum going. Has a nice 4-game stretch heading into the offseason. He's feeling really good about himself. His confidence is growing, and we head into 2019. The most important offseason in Jets history. Got to get his head coaching right, hire right. Got to get the staff right. Got to use this $100 million wisely, and Mac has to nail this draft. Exciting times to be a Jets fan. And right before we close the show, this is our last show of 2018, I believe. Yep, last show of 2018. And obviously the Jets are finishing out a disappointing season. There were some highs, the game against the Lions and Broncos Colts in these last few weeks, but mostly lows. So we'd like to thank you guys for listening to our show throughout the regular season. I know we weren't there every week, but we tried to be there as much as possible. And we're just so thankful that through all that, our listens really don't ever waver, and that that if we do produce an episode that week, we just have a nice steady stream of listeners, and we're very excited about that and happy about that. The off seasons tends to be our most exciting time. I feel like for us, that's the most consistent time for us, oddly enough. And we're excited about it. I think we're going to change the format of the show a little bit. We've teased that before, but I think I was just kind of bouncing some ideas off Kyle to make the show a little bit better.
You like to bounce a lot of things off me, Ben.
That was just weird. I think that change a few things and make our podcast a little different. But Kyle and I will be back in 2019 talking Jets as always. So we'd like to thank you for listening to the show. If you are listening for the first time or for some reason don't know how to listen to the show, if you're listening to it, you can find us on iTunes.
Ben. Actually,
Yep.
never mind. I'll save it for the end. Never mind. Keep going.
Okay.
My bad. Keep going.
Okay. You can find us at when Kyle says his dumb thing right up the soundbite that just
Yep.
often doesn't have things to do with the Jets. But you can find us if you want to listen to our podcast at the Jet Take anywhere you listen to podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, whatever. You can find our show on Twitter. That's the best place to keep up with us. We're very active on there, responding to fans and whatnot. So just search the Jet Take. We're on there. And as Greg mentioned, we're on turnonthejets.com. You can go there and find our podcast, tremendous other podcasts, and some great work written by some great people. So just make sure you go follow Jay Caparoso on Twitter and then check out turnonthejets.com. That's going to do it for us. I guess Kyle is going to say whatever he's going to say for after the soundbite. But again, we wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Thank you for listening to us throughout the 2018 season, and we'll be back in 2019 talking Jets and fighting. So we'll leave you with the best chant in the National Football League. Oh, would you like to chime in here? Or?
No, I just said, oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. We'll leave you with the best chant in the National Football League. Everybody have a great New Year's. We'll see you guys in 2019.
Ben, I'm not going to talk to you for a whole year.
That was it? That was your big thing?
That was it. Yeah.
That was the worst joke. Oh, my. That was like a joke my mom would make. Oh, my God.